Hey guys, this is Maros from Newfeed reviewing Aion the Tower of Eternity for the PC, made by NCSoft. Yeah, that's right, NCSoft and the guys who brought you Guild Wars and Lineage 2. So, Aion is an MMORPG that has been out in Korea for over 2 years and was recently released in the United States. It is the very first MMORPG to use the CryEngine, and if you aren't familiar with it, it's the same engine that powered Crysis, which is claimed as the most visually proficient PC game to date. It would be a crime to simply state that Aion is a WoW clone, because it really isn't. There are some things Aion does better than WoW, and there's a laundry list of things that it falls flat on. Let's begin with the character creation. When you first start playing, you will have the option to join one of two factions, the Elios or the Asmodeans. The Elios are basically humans and appear to be the good side, while the Asmodeans are evolved versions of the humans with claws, and are portrayed as the evil side. There is also a third, non-playable faction, but we will discuss this later. When you pick your faction, you will then select which class you want to play as. You can select from 4 different base classes: Warrior, Mage, Scout, and Priest. Once you hit level 10, you can choose between 2 more specific classes. The Warrior can branch out into a Templar, which serves as the main tank for the game's instances. Can't say anything right today. Or you can choose to be a Gladiator who specializes in DPS, but can also off-tank. The Mage branches out into the Glass Cannon Sorcerer, or into an Elemental Summoning Spirit Master. The Scout branches into a Ranger who uses bows and arrows to fight long range, or the Assassin who can stealth behind enemies and get up in their grill. Last but not least, the Priest branches out into a Cleric who serves as the main healer for instances, or a Chanter, which is basically a support class with many unique buffs available for the party. After you choose your base class, you continue to the character customization screen. I can say without exaggeration that Aion's character customization is the largest of any MMORPG, and possibly any game to date. You can tweak your character's every single detail, including body type, jewelry, arm length, face appearance. The possibilities are just endless. The variety of customization options don't cover up the fact that this game doesn't have any races to choose from. You're either an Elios or an Asmodean, which makes the character diversity kind of bland, even though you can make your character's appearance one of a kind. Just like any MMORPG, once you enter the game, you'll be at a newbie zone until you get a good feel for the game, which is around level 10. Once you hit level 10, you will choose your subclass and get teleported to your faction's main city, Sanctum or Pandemonium. Another landmark is that at level 10, you will get your wings, which is probably the coolest part of the game once you reach level 10. And once you get your wings, you can only fly for 45 seconds, and if you're in midair when your flight timer runs out, you're just shit out of luck. As you level up, you'll have the option to buy gear that adds flight time, and you can even buy wins in later levels that will drastically increase your flight timer. When you start off, there are only 2 zones where you can use your wings in, like 1 or 2, which seemed kind of lame to me, because they're kind of teasing you. They just gave you this awesome pair of wings, and now you can't really use them anywhere. They give you these wings at level 10, and then they block virtually everything off until level 25. After level 10, you'll be questing in another newbie zone which will have no human-controlled opposing faction, meaning you can quest in peace without getting ganked. The next milestone will be level 20. Level 20, you'll be getting a quest which lets you gain Stigma equip slots. Now, one thing that Aion lacks is a talent tree to customize your character's spec, but these stigmas try to remedy this issue. Stigmas are items which drop off randomly from mobs or can be bought in the auction house. Once you equip a stigma, you'll gain the advantage or spell that the stigma had. For example, a sorcerer can equip a stigma which transforms the enemy into a tree. Once the stigma is equipped, you can gain this ability as a spell. There's a limit to how many stigmas you can equip, so you can be tactical with your stigma's choices. You can get a stigma which puts your enemy to sleep, for example, and then you can combine it with a stigma which does massive damage but takes a long cast time. The last major milestone is level 25. At this level, you will gain a quest which will give you clearance to enter the Abyss, a lawless levitating core. This is where most of your PvP will be held. In the Abyss, you can fly everywhere and anywhere. There are no limits. There will be tons of people of the other factions, so get ready to pwn and get pwned. In this area, there are locations called artifacts and forts. The way the system works is that during a pre-designated time, a fortress will become vulnerable. Once the fortress is vulnerable, a faction can join forces to take the fortress from the faction that currently holds it. Artifacts will be scattered around these fortresses, whichever faction holds an artifact will gain its battle advantage, such as a buff for everybody near the fortress. Sometimes there will only be a few people defending and attacking a fortress, and sometimes there will be hundreds. Sadly, when you are trying to capture a fortress on a Saturday night, there will be tons of people, which means it will be a lag fest. To officially capture the fortress, your faction needs to make it down to the general's lair and kill the general, who is an NPC. The hard part is not killing the general, but containing all of the people of the opposing faction trying to stop you. Once the fortress is captured, it will belong to a certain legion or guild in common terms. The way this is determined is whichever legion did most damage to the general during the fight, and the fortress walls end up capturing the fortress, which means if you are serious about getting a fortress, you'll need to have a strong legion, and you will need to have many legion members online at once. Now, getting back to the third race I was talking about earlier, an NPC controls an extra race called the Balur. They can also capture fortresses, just like any other faction, when the fortresses are vulnerable, and they also act as a counterbalance when one of the faction gains too much power. For example, if the Asmodeans have like 50% of the fortresses captured, the Balur will probably have around 25, and the Elios will have the other 25%. This acts in a way so that you can have server stability, so that one faction doesn't control like every single fortress. So after level 25, you'll be questing in various places to hit the level cap of 50. You can also craft items for yourself during this time. The game features crafting and gathering as a way to find materials and create useful items from those materials. This system seems very uninspired since it uses simple pass-fail meters. Whenever you want to gather something, you walk up to it, left-click it, and hope that it doesn't fail. The weird thing is that there's no special gathering, meaning you have to be a miner to gather ore. That's not how it is in Aion. You just kind of run up to the item and suck the life out of it. Crafting is very much the same as gathering. You walk up to a workbench or whatever your profession requires, hit a button, and hope that you don't fail. This makes it so you can't just craft hundreds of certain items and go get a bagel, but you actually have to sit down in front of your computer and keep clicking if the item fails. Moving on to the combat. The combat in the game is pretty satisfying. You will have your regular moves / spells as well as chain moves. How this works is that you cast a certain spell, and as soon as it hits, you'll get the option to quickly perform another spell, which is only available after you cast the first spell. It seems like an interesting idea, but NCSoft didn't commit to this idea. You'll only have 3 or 4 chain spells, and they are there just to add on some extra damage instead of giving huge benefits or buffs, so they can't really be used tactically. Another combat mechanic is the divine power system. Every time you kill an NPC, you gain a small percentage of divine power. Once your DP meter is full, you can perform a powerful spell, wasting all of your DP points. Sadly, the rate of accumulation for DP is slow, so if you want to use your DP spells on a regular basis, you'll need to buy special materials which automatically fill up your divine power. The aspect that this game excels at, by far, are the visuals. It's easily the best looking, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, mouthful, and it can hold its own with almost every PC game that has been released. Simply put, it looks great. You can tell that NCSoft has paid a lot of attention to detail when creating the characters, environments, and textures. There really isn't anything negative to say about the graphics of Aion. So this is kind of what I thought about the game. This is my final consensus. The sad thing about Aion is that it teases you with all of its potential. The game is fun up until about level 20, where you actually have to start grinding. Grinding is when you kill monsters over and over again, brainlessly, to gain experience to level, if you don't already know or aren't familiar with MMORPGs. The way it plays out is that you will always have the option to quest in Aion, but you will be backed into a corner where you'll have to grind if you want to level fast. It gets very boring very fast. The game's layout is that you're grinding until you're level 50, then you go into the abyss and grind on fortress guards to get enough AP for gear, and then you just gank lobbies the rest of the game. There's virtually no end game content, and once you hit level 50 you won't have much choices. The problem is that Aion is targeted as a PvP game, but it doesn't have much content for PvP nor PvE. This game is a patch or an expansion away from becoming something extraordinary, but as of right now, you'll have to survive countless hours of boredom to enjoy Aion.